Welcome to a new episode of Mika TNR's CBeyond show. Today we are going to check the future of startups. What are investors looking at? What do you need to consider as an entrepreneur? With guest Tushar Kansal. Let the entrepreneur talks begin.
Yes, hello. Welcome to a new episode of the CBeyond show. And my pleasure today is to introduce Tushar Kansal. You're back again. I had you on the show in the first season, one of the early ones, actually. So it was early phase pandemic. But for the audience here, I have audience in more than 50 countries with the podcast. So it's quite amazing as
Right.
such.
It's really amazing. It's really amazing to see this podcast grow. I remember last time we had spoken about nature, environment. We spoke about so many things, and you have been all over. I mean, I see you all over winning awards and so much. And this podcast, 50 countries. That's really awesome. I'm really happy to come again on this podcast, Mika.
Thank you for that feedback, Tushar. But we're going to turn it to you now because for the sake of the audience and all listeners, could you please give us, let's say, a quick background on yourself and your company? I think the name is fantastic, Kansaltancy Ventures, of course. But now we'll hear a bit more about you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mika. So I'm Tushar Kansal. My company's name is Kansaltancy Ventures. I support startups. So basically, I received the award of best startup supporter last month from India's first IPS woman officer, Dr. Kiran Bedi. And so I support startups and growth stage companies in diverse sectors, technology and non-technology. And my background is, I'm an MBA from University of Delhi. I did my executive education from Harvard Business School. And I'm also a venture advisor with Loyal VC, which is a INSEAD-led Canadian VC fund having a core portfolio of over 200 investments in more than 46 countries. And I was also awarded Entrepreneur of the Year by Business Connect magazine this year. I'm very active in the entrepreneurship cells of the top 10 academic institutions in India, the Indian Institutes of Technology and the Indian Institutes of Management. My expert opinion is often sought by leading business news channels like CNN, News 18, Venture Capital TV, Business World, Business and Economy, Curious, Digital Market Asia. I've done more than 200 webinars in the last 2 years, connected with more than 650 investors globally. And I pick global deals while being sector agnostic. And the ticket size is USD 200K to $50 million. So this is about me. In my previous life, have worked for corporates, have been CFO of a company owned by Guggenheim Partners, and also led the team at Brand Capital, which is the venture arm of the Times of India Group. I have also been part of the team, a private equity team at Deloitte and Touche. Raised $2.5 billion for the Russian telecom company MTS India. This is about me. Happy to be back, Mika.
Yeah. Wow. Tushar, I mean, you are quite some achiever yourself and a lot of experience that you have in your backpack, which is, I think, also very useful when talking with startups and mentoring, helping them, finding investors, etc. And like you said, we had a chat early on in the pandemic, and we talked about the nature, of course, because kind of in a lockdown situation. And I don't know if you had, I remember from that, I haven't listened to that podcast episode now, but I still remember you said that your dream was to get to the mountains with your sons.
Yes.
Can you recall that? Yeah.
I did go after that, with him.
Wonderful. Yeah. You see, nature is important, even though we talk about investments, technology, etc. The roots are important. So you already mentioned a bit about it, Tushar, but like you done 600 webinars, or what was it, 200, and a lot of things. So if you now look at we've been through and still maybe some pandemic and COVID issues remaining, but have you seen a shift in the, let's say, both startup scene and venture side during this period yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mika. So, see, startups have continued to play an important role in the economy, and some inventive new companies they responded quickly and flexibly to the pandemic, and they have been instrumental in assisting many nations in their transition to a totally digital employment, education, and health services, as well as providing medical products and services. And if you look at the growth of startups, according to the US Census Bureau, the number of applications for forming a company hit an all time high of more than 500,000, which is a 95% increase over the same month in 2019. And in France, according to McKinsey, 84,000 new firms were registered in October. So this is again a 20% increase over the last year. Startups have been focusing on logistics, distribution, IT sectors, and internet trade was the main factor behind the startup boom in the first half of 2020, as per in the UK, as per a University of Kent study. So the epidemic, it's a natural accelerator of businesses. It has unquestionably benefited the world economy. We are seeing unprecedented levels of cash raised, dollars spent, and departures. And uh, I'll give you a statistic. In
Yeah.
2021, 44 unicorns were born in India. So India
Okay.
has 88 unicorns. So out of that,
Yeah.
50% were born in 2021.
Yeah.
So this shows that digitalization, the internet economy, the database economy, all this has taken firm shape, and epidemic has only accentuated this trend. But now that vaccinations have been done and epidemic is, so to say, gone back and going back, I see some businesses getting affected negatively as well.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think what you're saying, Tushar, is actually that the pandemic is also a business opportunity. And we see that many entrepreneurs are seizing that opportunity and capturing it. And adding to your, let's say, unicorn statistics, what I saw globally for this year, January, February, there's actually, according to some statistics, 81 new unicorns. And that was January, February. I haven't seen March yet because we're still in that month. But so this is really, let's say, accelerating that side too. If you think about this, I mean, how do you see then? Of course, there's been a lot of investments and venture capital flowing into startups. How do you see also the venture side seizing this opportunity? Are they active, and what are they looking into?
They are mostly looking into technology because technology provides scalability, and data is the new oil. And so they are looking mostly for businesses which can provide material benefit over the other competitors in the market. And uh, in terms of what startups are doing to attract that kind of an investment, many startups are turning into the decentralized finance and the digital currency space.
Yeah.
And it scarcely existed a decade ago, but now it is being confirmed by milestones like Coinbase $85 billion launch on the Nasdaq. So, and in areas like healthcare and technology, I mean, of course, because epidemic was about healthcare. So a lot of venture money is going into these areas, and what startups are doing is they are, for the very good reason, they are, many of them, the ones who understand this process better. They are concentrating on achieving results.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and they are also networking. So networking is a soft sell. So it is a simple method to get started, but it provides really long term benefits.
Hmm.
And also some of them are saying we will offer dividends to the investor. So in a way saying that we will de-risk you over the shorter term by providing you a dividend. So some kind of a coupon are also being offered on the type of instrument which the venture guys are putting in.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so
Hmm.
all these things, Samika.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. And of course, I've seen, when you're mentoring, advising startups, and you kind of created roadmaps too, and let's say the signs, don't do this, please do this. I mean, what are the key elements you think a startup needs to consider to kind of getting traction or attracting funding, doing the right things?
So I always tell these startups you have to be completely open and honest with yourself. I mean, uh, if you are pre-seed, seed, I recommend you go to your friends and family, relatives who are interested in your concept and who believe in you, and you pitch your idea to them. And
Yeah.
keep keep whatever relationships you are building with potential investors, you keep them informed on a regular basis so that they are aware of what your company is doing, a probable launch or entering a new market, or and get your Google presence right. I mean, somebody who searches you should know, like Mika, if I search you, I know very clearly you are doing a lot of work, recommended work, quality work in a particular field.
Hmm.
So get your Google presence right, get your LinkedIn right, because there are 700 million people on LinkedIn, and all those are there for professional reasons. uh, do a lot of community building, networking, make contact with government agencies. Nowadays, all educational institutions and government is very active on the startup scene. Even if they are not able to offer you money at an early stage, they will offer you the right platform through which you can reach the right kind of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And make a powerful pitch deck. I mean, your pitch deck should be 15 to 17 slides, but it should capture everything about the problem statement, the solution, the team, the traction, the business model, uh, competitors, your advantages, and the financial projections, and what is the funding ask, how will you use the funds, so everything. and
Yeah.
uh, and begin with a single major seed investor. So try to begin with a single major seed investor, form a well balanced team, and then approach. And don't believe that all your competitors are doing the right thing. There will be gaps in what they're doing, and once you learn that particular space, you can of course do it better.
Yeah. Tushar, I have a follow-up question here. This is great. Like you mentioned, open and be open and honest. And of course, when you come as an entrepreneur, a startup company, of course, you want to, let's say, if you're looking for investments, and let's say you're pitching and you say, oh, how to approach that? I mean, should I just say, oh, look how great we are. We are excellent in everything. And, it's just a straight roadmap. But of course, everyone has these humps and, downs. And how should an entrepreneur then say that? How open and honest should I be? I mean, of course, I have challenges. Should I tell about this and how to fix them, or how we are actually capable of getting there, and what mistakes we have done, or how to balance that message?
See, you have to uh, first of all understand that you are seeing the life journey of your company for the first time, but there are people out there who have seen the life journey of many other similar companies.
Hmm.
And there are essentially three things which a startup entrepreneur needs at the early stage of his journey. One is network. Network does not have a shortcut. You have to build it, but if you build it with the right kind of people, your network will be stronger, and it will be everlasting, and it will give you better returns. The second thing is capital. So there are a lot of people who have capital, but they are not the right partner for you, because they don't have the capability to offer you anything beyond capital. But having said that, if you look at a large part of the institutional investor pool out there, they understand that you require more than capital. So they help you by getting you business from their investee companies. They help you by getting you cross-border management know-how. They offer you support in whichever way possible. And so apart from network and capital, the third thing is domain specialization. And
Yeah.
so these three things are the only things which basically a startup entrepreneur requires. And domain specialization is also, when I see these accelerators conducting a 16-month kind of program
Yeah.
for a particular cohort, then I see that they do attract a lot of industry professionals who have that know-how which you need. And if you want to get them as mentors, you can of course offer them something and get them on board. So I mean, I tell all the startup founders, although it's a very lonely journey, entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey, but at the same time, there are solutions and people out there who can be the right partner in your journey.
Yeah, and I think that's a great message too, because you are lonely.
Yeah.
Ensure that you get also some kind of advisors, mentors, your extended team as such. I think that is crucial. And I want to comment one thing you mentioned there. Let's say when you look for investors, don't just look for the capital. I mean the cash, because there is an abundance of capital in that sense. But what you highlight there is that look at what this investor can provide you in terms of other help, because cash only won't take you to all your goals. Like you said there, that this look at the smart money, and I think that's why investors should also pitch a bit back to the startups in terms of, well, how can you help me? Not just the money part is one side, because we have our business plan, and that's why we are kind of accelerating that. But how can you plug into these various elements in our business plan to actually accelerate, enable this? And I think that is becoming the key also when we move ahead in terms of startups having a success.
Absolutely, Mika.
Yeah. So moving on, then we talk about startups, but eventually, I mean, if you're having early success, you might start to grow as a company. You get into that scale up phase, and actually, how do you see this? Does that differ in terms of, let's say you go for a Series A, B, C, or whatever, as a growth company looking for investments and support? I mean, does it differ then in terms of what they're looking for, or what type of support and advice they need?
It gets more complex, isn't it? As the company grows up, there are so many other dynamics which get played out, and you have to bother about company culture also. I mean, that's a very there are communities within your company who have a particular culture, and your approach towards solving problems from a as compared to a startup with a growth stage company, you have to bother about the culture in your company. And that's where your responses to events have to take into factor whether a large part of your employees are in sync with what you are doing as a company. So companies which don't have this institutional ethics, uh, you know institutional memory of always trying to do the right thing, uh, they will find that somewhere they will fall off the rails. And I'll give you an example. Steve Jobs said that there are so many screens nowadays and so much of data and so much of everything banging on your head that your memory recall, your mind space is very less. And if you want to capture the mind space of your customers, then instead of talking about your products, their pricing and their features, you have to talk about values. And if you
Yeah.
are wanting to portray your company in the right values, then all your stakeholders should be on the right side of those values, whether they are employees, customers, sorry, not customers, your employees, your management, your investor.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so partnering with the right investor is also a crucial aspect. I mean, if you are taking uh, money laundered money which is laundered, then
Sure.
of course it will reflect very bad on your company.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Bear that in mind. Don't just take the first pile of cash.
right.
Look beyond that, actually,
Absolutely.
because that will have long-term effects. Because typically, when you get an investor on board, it's not like it's just that transaction or getting funding, because that starts the handshake. That's the start of the agreement. Then you have to deliver, and you're going to be like married for a long time.
Right.
So be very wise in choosing your investor. And I think, uh, of course, it can be tempting to, you've been pitching a long time as an entrepreneur, and suddenly you have a term sheet. Someone is agreeing to invest in your company.
Right.
But Tushar, isn't that a good sign that, well, wait a while, if you have this term sheet, now you can go to the others you've been talking to and try to get another term sheet, right?
Okay, that's called term sheet shopping.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, why go for the first one if
Yeah,
you,
of course. It is your right. It is in your
yeah,
right to negotiate better. Yeah.
because you never know if you get better terms. And
Yeah.
okay, maybe it's a marriage in heaven with that first one. Maybe it is, but anyhow,
See,
just to have some comparison.
if it is a non-binding term sheet, then there is no
Yeah,
harm in talking to others, right?
sure.
Yeah.
And it's just to kind of strengthen also and understand maybe that first one is the good one, but uh,
Yeah.
don't mean that you're shopping around and trying to get 10, 20 term sheets, because that's going to be very time consuming too. But just
Right.
having the possibility to compare can be good, of course, and look
Right.
into the additional things they can support you with.
Right.
But startups, of course, you might be a startup or entrepreneur, you sell something, you need customers, of course, because otherwise you will fail, right? Customers,
Right.
you need the customer drive and the customers to support to grow your business. You might sell to a local business or a regional company, but what if you're working with corporates,
Mm-hmm.
international large corporates as a startup? And corporates, of course, they have all their, let's say, rigid procedures, all the governance, they have a set supply chain. How, have you considered anything? I mean, how can, of course, they have their bread and butter business. How can startups and corporates collaborate without being harmful for the startup and neither for the corporate? Other ways to kind of make this seamless.
See, my advice is, I mean, if you see some corporates which are potentially large customers for you as a startup, then instead of just trying to get the business from them when you are competing with other large companies who have better credentials, then you talk a more holistic kind of partnership. You can tell the corporates that why don't you put in some money in my company, observe the company for 6 months, and let us make it a two-way street.
Mm.
And you can also say that okay, if in 6 months my product doesn't work out for you, then probably we can have some other clauses to give you some comfort uh,
Oh, great.
around, right. This is being done. I mean, in India the largest corporate is Reliance, and
Yeah.
they raised a huge amount of money recently from Google, Facebook, and you whichever investor you can think of. Uh, and they have invested in almost 30 companies in the last 10 years because they are creating an ecosystem like Amazon has created.
Yeah.
So they want to have a place in the pie for each of the businesses. So when you have things like that playing out in the market, then as a startup, it is an opportunity that
Mhm.
you can do the same with other corporates, if not with Reliance.
Yeah.
So my sense is, if you are not able to win large contracts from big corporates, then you can look at partnering in other ways on the balance sheet side and not necessarily on the profit and loss side.
Yeah. But of course, startups should also realize, I think it's great to, let's say, corporates, of course, have a big footprint and you can make an impact. However, it doesn't mean that when you get a pilot with a corporate that, oh, now it's done. It's a lot of hard work because you have to kind of change their mindsets, their behaviors, the supply chain, etc. So I think what you mentioned about this innovation ecosystem might be a good incubator or enabler to kind of also see how to make that impact
Yeah, I
as
can
such.
give you an
Yeah.
example. This classmate of mine from my engineering days, he started a logistics company called Vulcan Express. And at that time, Snapdeal was the third largest e-commerce company in India, and they were outsourcing their logistics to some other company.
Hmm.
So this guy went up to them. He said, "Why don't you do your logistics in-house and earn all that profit?" So they took a large stake in that company and gave them slowly all their logistics business. And this company grew like, I mean, mad. I mean, this guy within like 2 years, he had from, so to say, $1 million turnover, he went all the way up to 40-50 million dollars in,
Oh, fantastic. Hmm.
yeah. Then other things happened, Snapdeal went down and all that stuff. But, I'm just trying to give you an
Yeah,
example
yeah,
that,
yeah. And that's good. And of course, it's not that everyone will have that, let's say,
exactly.
exponential growth, etc.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's nice to see those examples. But as an entrepreneur, then if you have ideas and you see, oh, there's so much happening, should I just do software? Oh, there's a mobility transition happening. Oh, we go more digital. We have an energy transition. I mean, what should I choose, or how do I select what to kind of then do as an entrepreneur? Is there a
See, I'll tell
thinking
you,
behind this?
it's more important to focus on what not to do,
Yeah.
because you might be getting influenced by all that Elon Musk tweets, which are there in front of you all the time.
Yeah.
But if you go deeply and hear out Elon Musk, he said entrepreneurship is like falling off a cliff and trying to open an umbrella.
Mm.
So so basically, don't do it because others are doing. So,
Yeah.
so what I mean to say is that you have to find your own calling, and if you really don't know what you are getting into, you join a startup, see how things are happening, or you join a good institution, see how things work out there, and you know s- take a hang of it, and uh,
Yeah.
and then decide what you really want to do.
And the first idea might not be the ready-made because you
No,
might need to kind of
no,
pivot and change, and it
no,
happens so much. So don't
absolutely.
be afraid as an entrepreneur. Okay, you have maybe some will to do a startup, but maybe you're not ready with your idea. But I think that's a great idea to try join someone or
Yeah,
be part of something and evolve your idea. And
right.
remember that the first idea might not be the best
Yeah,
and not what solves a tangible problem, which
right,
adds value, makes you unique in some way. So
right.
there's a lot to think about, but I think
There
there's
was
yeah.
India's second largest e-commerce company is Flipkart, And Flipkart, people who left Flipkart, they have created 10 companies which are more than $100 million.
Yeah.
And so, they just saw the whole life cycle and how to scale and how to sustain. And so this is a very good example of how you can take your learning in some explosive startup and then take off.
Yeah, Flipkart is a good example, and I recently participated in an event with one of the Flipkart co-founders. Fantastic person. I don't mean to be ignorant. I can't remember the name now, but it was just fantastic, eye-opening for me too. And of course, you mentioned Tesla. People who have left that have created successful high valuation companies, even unicorns. We see that from Google, etc. So joining an innovative company is also a good way of
See,
getting somewhere.
Udan is $3 to $4 billion. It was founded by Flipkart mafia, they call it.
Yeah. Okay.
PhonePe is $16 billion. Grow is more than $1 billion. Vogo is more than $1 billion. CureFit is more than $1 billion. Exotel, Arzu, Hansel. There are so. Sometimes I wish I worked for Flipkart.
Yeah. But Tushar, also, okay, valuation is nice because that of course shows on the market belief and traction. But of course, I would say also don't do it for the money. You need to have a passion, your heart and minds.
Right.
Without that, you will never get there. I doubt it because there's going to be so many ups and downs. You're on a, let's say, high speed roller coaster, and if you don't love what you're doing, and you need to have that passion, grit, and sustain all that hardship. It's going to be a very bumpy road. Yeah.
See, Mika, this company came to me. It is in the fertility space, and after talking to both these doctors, couple, I realized that they themselves faced a fertility issue, and that is why they launched it. And there is this guy, he was Imar. He was used to be a design officer, chief design officer for Imar, and he left that job, came back to India, and he could not see the dementia faced by his in-laws. So he launched an elder care business. So,
yeah, okay. Wow.
People who get inspiration from real life problems and they want to do something about it. And that problem has to be a fundamental problem. It should not be a very silly problem. So
no, because I think that's of course also what investors look at, and the market. Is this scalable? How big is this problem? What's the main challenge? And what you're doing? Don't bring everything new. Has there been some kind of similarities in terms of business model or whatever? And then show what's unique with you in that sense. So lot to think about, and I think you can never kind of take out all the mistakes, etc. I think that's part of the journey to learn from, let's say, certain mistakes. But getting good guidance is that you can at least avoid the silly ones, right?
Absolutely. Learn from others' mistakes.
Yes. So it's really great to talk with you, Tushar, and
my pleasure, Mika.
Yeah, I enjoy this, and I want to kind of ask you also to wrap this up a bit. What do you see now as, let's say, your next significant milestone, or what you want to achieve in this year, or anything that you have in your mind?
I have plans to open an accelerator and also a $50 million VC fund. And I'm looking for partners who can come in and we can launch together. In fact, one of the South India-based companies, they are in the process of opening a VC fund, and we are talking quite, we are talking quite a lot, so that we open it together. And so I want to morph into a VC fund, and And let's see if it happens this year. I mean, nothing like it.
That's a great plan, and I love it. So
Thank
if
you.
anyone who's listening to this, where can they find more information, or how should they contact you?
I'm
Tushar?
mostly available on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Tushar Kansal. If you search, you'll definitely notice my profile. Otherwise, you can check my website kansaltancy.com, kansaltancy.com, and you can write to me on my email tk@consultancy.com.
Yeah, wonderful. I hope there's someone who's listening to this might get in touch with you, Tushar,
Maybe.
because I
Sure.
think what you, like I started with, you're a great achiever, and
Thank you.
there's
Thank
more
you
to
so much.
come. So if you're eager to do something there with Tushar, I mean, join him. You're a great guy, and
Thank you
there's
so much,
good
Mika.
things coming.
Thank you. You are
Coming up.
very humble. You are very kind, and you have such a great vibration, so much of positivity, and I really love talking to you. Thank you so much, Mika.
Thank you, Tushar, and thank you for this time.
My
Have a nice
pleasure.
day.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a good day.